What's going on? How's everybody doing today on this fine Friday? As you see, it's not perfect, but I've gotten a green screen, or blue screen really is what it is, set up. Still working on some of the kinks. I know it's not perfect, just bear with me here. But today we're going to be talking a little bit about my personal reviews of Black Widow. My girlfriend and I were able to go see it last weekend, and just I've got like 5 main points and then a 6th about the post-credit scene. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Again, there will be spoilers here, so just watch out. If you haven't seen the movie, I'd probably go see it and then come back. But let's get into it. All right, so I think the place that I think that we really want to start on is the fact that it was delayed multiple times due to the pandemic. And I think that was kind of one of the major reasons why I was super disappointed in the movie. Because, you know, when something gets delayed like this, you're hoping that they're still like consistently working on it and consistently like tweaking some things. But that just didn't really seem to be the what happened for this. It just seemed like they had the movie done 3, 4, 5 months ago and then put it on a shelf and said, all right, once the pandemic's at a point where we can, you know, go back to movie theaters and all that, we'll put it out. And they left it there and they moved on to something else. Because it seemed like some of the stuff wasn't completely done necessarily, and that was kind of one of the biggest disappointments for me. Is I think that, and that's not just the studio's fault. That's also mine for kind of bringing up tension and hype for a movie that doesn't necessarily need to be there. But anyway, the biggest thing, I felt like this movie was kind of just shoehorned into the MCU because 9 years ago, 8, 9 years ago. After the first Avengers movie, everybody's like, okay, what happened in Budapest? Are we ever going to see this? And then it moved on. We kind of got more background from Natasha in, in Age of Ultron, and then also a little bit more in Civil War. And now everybody's like, okay, we got to see this. Because it was disappointing because of the fact that we didn't really get the backstory that we wanted to. We never really got what happened with Hawkeye and Nat in Budapest.
Just like Budapest all over again.
You and I remember Budapest very differently.
Yeah, okay, they killed Dreykov and they killed Dreykov's daughter. No, they didn't. But that was, I mean, like I said, spoiler warning. They didn't kill Dreykov or his daughter. And it just seemed like they just was, all right, cool, they're not dead. Move on. That was the thing. Move on. Like, they very rushed past the thing that I personally was super excited about seeing in this movie. It feels like there was a lot of, like, build-up to that third act that just didn't really pay off. It felt like a lot of this was, you know, talking about the espionage side of the Red Room and then also talking about Dreykov and what the relationship between Natasha and Dreykov was prior. And then he was just the typical, I want to control everything, and I'm going to send one person to stop you instead of sending the thousands of... I think if you look at the scene where he is in front of the board and all of the faces zoom out a little bit and you see the full world map with all these little boxes, I think it's a little bit over 7,000 different widows that he has under his control. But instead he sends one person, his daughter, which that's another thing we'll get into here in a second, of who his daughter turns out to be and kind of the mess that in my opinion that really was. Also, because this was a prequel set between Civil War or set basically right after Civil War, where was Red Guardian? Where was Iron Maiden, Natasha's mom in the situation, and Yelena during the Infinity War Endgame buildup? Did she... Because it seemed like everything was left on a positive note at the end of that movie when Nat went then to find the Captain America's team and free them from the raft, or help Cap free the rest of the team from the raft, and then just never addresses that family ever again. So I feel like this was kind of like, they're not going to worry about it. We'll just do it. They're not going to worry about it and move on. But like I was just saying, Taskmaster. I felt absolutely no connection to his character at all. I mean, we got one reference, and if I'm not mistaken, we have one reference of who Taskmaster was, and that was Loki in the first Avengers movie.
I got red in my ledger. I'd like to wipe it out.
you wipe out that much red? Dreykov's daughter? Sao Paulo? The hospital fire?
Being Dreykov's daughter, it's a cool idea, but I didn't really care for it. I feel like they really ruined the Tony Masters version of Taskmaster. I just didn't really care. I think that the fact that it was Dreykov's daughter is kind of a cool thing, but not to be Taskmaster, like use that name. I wish that they just had they could have created something around Taskmaster that wasn't Taskmaster, to have her Antonia, I believe is what her name was. I didn't catch it. But I just feel like they could have left it at, when Nat had to bomb the building and kill Dreykov and his daughter to defect a shield. And that was the main mission in Budapest, was that. I feel like you could have just left it at saying that and then moved on, and you didn't need to bring Antonia back and be Taskmaster. So one of the things that really annoyed me was this quote here by Eric Pearson, one of the writers of Black Widow, saying that we always talked about Taskmaster being the straightforward physical villain, and then the idea of looping it into the greatest shame of Nat's past, and that's how he created this Taskmaster story. I understand why, but I don't think it worked, really. I don't think, you see the physical scarring on her. She doesn't say anything. She doesn't have any, personality behind her. It's basically just a robot. And with that, it's literally just a robot. You kind of took off the entire Tony Masters side of things, of the psychological kind of effort that he puts in of an idyllic memory. And even more than an idyllic memory, actually. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's where you can see something acted out, you can see something as it is, and recreate it to a T perfectly. And that's what Tony Masters is. But in this movie, they take it and it's computer generated. It's a chip that she has in the back of her neck that kind of tells her what to do and helps her analyze the fight situations, which I think is kind of a really bad way of doing it. It's a really knockoff way of doing it. But anyway, that's kind of the four biggest downsides that I have with this movie. The one bright spot that I say is Florence Pugh as Yelena Belova. I think she was really, really good, and her and Scarlett Johansson could kind of bounce off each other, and it did really seem like that and Yelena were siblings in a way. They had that kind of familial bond, and they kind of worked off each other very, very well. And especially the scene once they rescue David Harbour, the Red Guardian, from the prison. And they kind of bounce back and forth on David Harbour. His Red Guardian makes the quote of, is it your time of the month or something? And they kind of bounce back and forth of educating him, if you will, of what really happens in the Red Room. And I'm super excited to see kind of where she goes with this new Yelena Belova's Black Widow character, because, as you know, they're going to continue. I believe it was confirmed. I don't know exactly, but I'm pretty sure it was confirmed that Yelena Belova is going to take over the Black Widow character in the future, which I'm super excited about. Which leads me directly into the last point that I have, the post-credit scene. This is proof that the MCU will not shy away from introducing a major character in a Disney Plus show that's going to show back up in the movie side of the MCU, and that's Val that we first saw in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, that is going to be creating a team that I believe is the Thunderbolts. Thaddeus Ross's kind of team that he leads, I believe, and Zemo leads, and she leads at one point. From that is, first we saw her bringing in U.S. Agent John Walker from Falcon and the Winter Soldier. This team also includes people like Black Widow that we now have seen. And it's specifically Yelena Belova's Black Widow, not Natasha Romanoff's. So that's going to be kind of cool. It also shows Zemo that we now see has escaped, I believe, from the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You see Red Hulk, which I'm pretty sure we're going to get from Thaddeus Ross. Winter Soldier, which I don't know how exactly he fits into it in the MCU kind of straight. And then the final character that they've added, well, not that they've added, but that I want to bring up, is Hawkeye. which they're directly going to do in what I'm guessing in the Hawkeye series, because at the end you see Yelena Belova at Natasha's grave, and Val's there saying, hey, do you want to really get the person who's responsible for her death?
I've got your next target. Thought I'd hand deliver it. Maybe you'd like a shot at the man responsible for your sister's death. Kind of a cutie, don't you think?
I don't necessarily like that setup for the Hawkeye series, because that's the next thing that we're going to get after, the next thing in this storyline from Yelena and Val is going to be going to the Hawkeye series on Disney Plus, and I don't know how I like this. I have, there's been no trailers for Hawkeye, so I think I'm going to give a little bit more kind of point of view on the Hawkeye series once we get that trailer and we see where that series is going to go. But if I'm going to give this movie a grade, I'm going to say it's like a 6.5. Really, I didn't personally like it. I think it's just a filler movie that the studio thought that we wanted, but we really wanted 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago now. So it's a little late, and a lot of the kind of stuff, the fight scenes and the danger of the main character was nullified by the fact that we've already seen what happens in the future. And I don't necessarily think that Marvel needs to be doing prequels necessarily, or kind of filling in the gaps of what we've already seen. I think they should shy away from that and just look moving forward. But that's going to do it for me. Thank you guys for joining and stopping by and getting my little quick review of the Black Widow movie. I do think that you should go ahead and go see it, but you might want to wait till it comes out on Disney Plus without premiere access. But that's going to do it for me. Have a good weekend. Take care. Peace.